Hi, I'm Evan Lewis on the Evan eCent channel, and today I'm going to take you on a tour of Uhrich Locomotive Works. We recently bought a tow-behind RV and did a 2-month trip from Tennessee to San Francisco via the Great Canyon National Parks of the United States. And then from San Francisco, we went up to Yellowstone and then down to Denver, Colorado. And that's where the story really begins. I talked to the staff at the KAO camping ground at Strasburg, Colorado, which is about 30 miles out of Denver, and they mentioned that there was a locomotive factory just around the corner. So I went for a very short walk, and sure enough, just around the corner I found Uhrich Locomotive Works, and there I met Marlin Uhrich, and he spent 2.5 hours showing me around his workshop, which I found fascinating and decided to make a short video about it. There's not a sign of any CNC machine in the whole place, and it's really authentic old machinery that was used for many years to build locomotives. This little 463 locomotive is a beautiful example of their work from 1976. It's 4.5 scale and a 15-inch gauge. It's back in the workshop for overhaul, maintenance, repairs and boiler testing, and the tender is in another workshop being repaired. This running gear was restored for a 266T 5/12 scale 15 gauge locomotive for a little railroad in Kansas. Other locomotives they've been working on are a K28 5/12 scale 15 gauge locomotive and an 18 gauge 5/12 scale 266T Mason bogie locomotive for the city of Loveland, Colorado. Apprentice Jake Lutz was just about to leave to go to Williamsport, Virginia, to pour Babbitt bearings for their train cars. They also do some work on full-size locomotives. Now let's have a look at some of the machinery they have in this interesting workshop. Again, no CNC machines, it's all hand-operated. My father was an expert in using one of these surface grinders in the New Zealand Air Force during the Second World War. The workpiece rotates around underneath the grinder, and these machines can produce precisions measured in 10/1000ths of an inch. Any large engineering workshop will have a lot of lathes, and I lost count of how many there were here. This is a fairly long lathe with a steady on the end. That circular object is for holding a piece of shaft, such as a drive shaft, to keep it steady while it's being machined. This is a relatively modern screw cutting lathe with a quick change tool post and a couple more miscellaneous lathes. This is a relatively small machine, and this lathe is at the larger end of the scale. This is an old belt-driven lathe with a flat belt that's driven by a shaft in the ceiling, a drive shaft providing power, and here we see it actually rotating. In the old workshops they had all of their big machines were running off belts from the ceiling rather than having a separate motor on each machine. This little lathe was set up for spinning copper, which is actually more difficult to do than you would expect. He used this for making a carriage lamp. To spin copper, you start with a flat sheet of copper pressed against a curved pattern, often made out of wood, but metal is actually better, and then use these tools that are hanging on the wall to press the copper against the pattern as it's spinning around and end up with a bowl shape. In a workshop like this you'll also find a lot of milling machines. This one with a vertical spindle is a fairly large machine, and I believe it was Army surplus in the 1940s or 50s. Of course, any large workshop is going to require a lot of extra accessories and tools to use on these machines. Here, apprentice Jake Lutz is pointing out a machine called a shaper, or shaping machine. And there are several machines of this type around, but you don't find them in workshops very often these days because they've largely been replaced by milling machines. The piece of work or material you're cutting goes on the table he's pointing to using the T-slots. And at the top is an arm that slides backwards and forwards, and at the tip of the arm is a tool holder. So as the arm moves forwards, it shaves a straight line cut on the piece of work, and then moves across a little bit and makes a second straight line cut, and gradually makes a flat surface. The mechanism is quite interesting because the backwards movement is faster than the forwards movement to save time. This is a slotting machine, which is essentially the same as a shaper, except the tool is moving up and down vertically for making keyway slots inside pulleys and gear wheels, and because these objects are round, they are placed on a rotary table rather than a linear table. This is another variation on the shaping machine. It's called a planer. And the difference is that the workpiece moves backwards and forwards on these rails while the tool itself stays still, and this can usually handle much larger pieces of work than a typical shaping machine. The Locomotive workshop also does some general engineering work, and this is a special project for one of the many oil rigs in the area. This is apparently an unusual size with a pipe system that is 6 7/8 inch diameter, and they needed to replace a collet system that holds the pipe in place as it is being dropped into the well. So this collet was made by turning it out of a solid piece, and then a bracing is placed on it to hold the pieces in place while they cut the slots in it. The slots are cut with this milling tool, and the work is rotated around the correct number of degrees by this dividing head. So the piece on the right hand side is like a chuck that holds the piece of material while you're making the slotting cuts. The inside surface of each collet segment is lined with a gripper with a hardness of 65 Rockwell to hold on to the pipe. This is another type of milling machine with a horizontal arbor instead of a vertical arbor. Notice that it also has a flat belt drive. There are some mystery objects too. This appears to be a milling machine, but it's got some odd equipment mounted on the top of it. Other miscellaneous machines include this threading machine, usually used for threading pipes, and a belt sander with a disc sander as well, and a band saw. And this machine in the background is for bending bars, a folding and bending machine. And in the foreground is a press, hydraulic ram press. This is an enclosed sandblasting machine which appears to have a rotary table. This is a small steam engine which was used as a water injector to pump water under pressure into an active boiler. It had to produce pressure to exceed the pressure inside the boiler. Of course, a crane is an essential piece of equipment. Now this beast is a cupola, which is like a small version of a blast furnace used for melting scrap cast iron ready for casting, producing liquid metal. Inside the building, just beside the cupola, is the sand casting room, where the moulds are actually prepared and castings actually made. The blue unit is preparing the sand for making the castings. In the foreground is a stack of 4 boxes. Each box is made of 2 parts. The upper part is called the cope and the bottom part is called the drag. And these are separated in order to remove the pattern from the sand and before casting. Marlon says he does more casting for artists than he does for engineers. I've been volunteering at Gold Mine Experience in Thames, New Zealand, where we've been restoring a stationary steam engine made by Tangus. Unfortunately, we had the facility broken into and the brass oilers were stolen. You can see these oilers at the beginning of this video clip. This is what they look like before and after I polished them up, and after I polished they got stolen. After the tour of the locomotive factory, it suddenly occurred to me that Marlon might be able to help us with this, and asked him if he had any oilers. And it turned out that he did have some and was prepared to sell these to me at a very reasonable price. So I bought these 2 oilers from Marlon and took them back to New Zealand and have since cleaned them up, and I had to make a new nut for it, which was a strange imperial pipe thread. But I've since made that and completed them, and they are now being installed on the machine. So I'd like to thank Marlon and Jake for showing me their workshop and a wonderful tour, and also for the 2 oilers, which turned out to be a real godsend for our facility. Thank you very much.